Hello and welcome back to Vidyarthee Education. So today we are going to discuss the current affairs, important current affairs for 10th of January, and it is important for all competitive exams. So let's begin. So the first article which is very important, it is from the Hindu, page 10. It is about section 152 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So here let's talk about the context. Now, what cases have been referred here? First is the Rajasthan High Court's caution in Tejinder Pal Singh versus the state of Rajasthan against the misuse of section 152 of the BNS to stifle dissent. Okay, so Supreme Court in 2022 it suspended criminal trials under section 124A, which is sedition. It suspended all criminal trials under this section, which is 124A of the IPC, pending government review. So the Union Home Minister announced its intent to repeal the sedition law. Okay. Now, what are the provisions of section 152 of the BNS? Section 152 of BNS. First, it criminalizes acts exciting secession, armed rebellion, and subversive activities. Also, acts encouraging separatism or endangering the sovereignty of India and its unity and integrity. So these acts are criminalized. But there's a notable point, which is it does not explicitly use the term sedition. So in 152 of BNS, there's no such explicit use of the term sedition. Understood? Now let's talk about the issues with section 152. First is vagueness of the language. There is no clear definition on what constitutes endangering sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. There's no clear definition, and there's a risk of subjective interpretation by the authorities. So there's a vagueness of language. Next, lower threshold for offense. Now the keyword here is knowingly. This reduces the bar for prosecution. Okay. Now, what is the social media impact on this? Now, sharing posts that might provoke separatism or even without malicious intent can lead to arrest. Now, there is no statutory requirement for proving a causal link between speech and its consequences. Now, there's a potential for abuse as well. Third point is potential for abuse. It is a cognizable and non-bailable offense. There's a high potential for misuse like section 124A of IPC, and the NCRB data from 2015 to 2020, NCRB data, it says there are 548 sedition arrests, but only 12 convictions. So there's a potential for abuse for this law. Now, broader scope, section 152 is wider than 124A. Okay, it is increasing the risk of abuse. So what is the way forward to this? Now, judicial oversight. So the Supreme Court should issue guidelines for enforcement. Now, there's a clear interpretation. There should be clear interpretation of terms like endangering sovereignty and unity. There should be a clear definition. As we have talked about, should be a clear definition. And it should set limits on arrest under 152, similar to DK Basu versus State of West Bengal. So limited limits on arrests. Next, safeguarding free speech. Okay. Now, it should promote democratic dialogue. So it should recognize the marketplace of ideas principle, which is Abrams versus United States. Now, it also should allow the dissent and criticism in a democratic society without fear of prosecution. So there should be a safeguarding of free speech. Now, next, legislative review. What does it say? Now, it should ensure the robust safeguards against the abuse of section 152. Okay, so we need to address the abuse of 152. And also, we need to revisit the language to reduce the scope of arbitrary interpretation. We talked about it in the first point as well, the clear definition. So the legislative should revisit the language to reduce the scope of arbitrary interpretation. Got it? Understood? So some relevant articles in the Constitution relating to this is Article 19(1)(a), which guarantees the freedom of speech and expression, and Article 19(2), which allows reasonable restriction on freedom. Reasonable restrictions. So these two articles become important. Understood? So now we have a question on this. It says, consider the following statements regarding section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. First statement is, it explicitly criminalizes acts of sedition, replacing 124A of the Indian Penal Code. The section criminalizes acts that endanger the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India but lacks a clear definition on these terms. It includes provisions that make it a cognizable and a non-bailable offense. So, which of the statements given above are correct? You need to answer this in the comment section. We also have a mains question to practice, and we need to keep on doing the answer writing practice. So, here's the question. Now, section 152 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita has sparked concerns about its potential misuse to stifle legitimate dissent, similar to the earlier sedition law under section 124A of the IPC. Critically examine the provisions of section 152 in light of constitutional freedoms and judicial precedents. Suggest measures to balance national security with the freedom of speech and expression. Let me just give some hints about the judicial precedents. First, we have Balwant Singh versus State of Punjab, 1995, where it differentiated casual sloganeering from acts causing real harm. Okay, and it also emphasized the need for a direct casual nexus between the act and its impact. So next we have Javed Ahmad Hazam versus State of Maharashtra, 2024. Here it stressed the judging words based on their actual effect on reasonable individuals and not weak minds. And a third precedent, Kedarnath Singh versus State of Bihar, 1962. Now here it distinguished the disloyalty towards the government from strong criticism of the policies. So here are some hints to the judicial precedents. You can use it to write your answers and keep on practicing. Let's move on to the next topic. Dual citizenship for diasporic Indians. It is from the Hindu, page 11. Let's talk about the context. The External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar mentioned challenges in granting dual citizenship to Indians abroad. Now, the Overseas Citizenship of India, OCI, this drive is considered a step towards meeting this demand, but the debate on dual citizenship remains open. Now, let's talk about some static information on the Indian citizenship. What are the constitutional provisions? Constitutional provisions on this. First, it comes in part 2 of the constitution, which is article 5 to 11. It deals with the citizenship. Now, citizenship is granted by birth, descent, registration, naturalization, or incorporation of territory. Got it? Now, distinctions. We have distinctions as well. First is NRI, the non-resident Indians. These are Indian nationals holding Indian passports with limited voting rights if registered in their place of entitlement. Now next, persons of Indian origin. Now they are not Indian nationals, they have no political rights. Now the PIO cards were merged into the OCI cards, but the rights remained unchanged. Okay. Now what are the legal frameworks? Now Citizenship Act 1955. It governs the acquisition and termination of Indian citizenship. Okay. Now Citizenship Amendment Act 2019, it fast-tracked the citizenship for minorities from certain neighboring countries. Okay. Now it talks about the acquisition and termination of citizenship. Now let's talk about the arguments against the dual citizenship. First is political rights. Now citizenship entails full political rights, including voting and participation in governance. Now, allowing dual citizenship could lead to divided loyalties. So, first the concern is divided loyalties. Second is potential risks. What are the potential risks? Now, there's a risk of creating a comprador class acting as foreign agents. Comprador. What does this word mean? It means a person who acts as an agent, okay, for foreign organizations, engaged in investment or trade or economic or political exploitations, okay. So there's a potential risk for being a comprador, creating a comprador. Now, also there's a possibility of recolonization by empowering the non-residents politically, okay. So there's a risk of recolonization. Third, let's take some global examples. Now, US restricts presidential eligibility to those born within the country. Now, there's a natural born citizen clause in the United States. This is the latest accepted revision reviewed on 31st December 2024. The status of natural born citizen of the United States is one of the eligibility requirements established in the United States Constitution for holding the office of president or vice president. Now, prominent figures like Mira Alfasa and Mother Teresa relinquished foreign citizenship to become Indian citizens. Got it? Next becomes the populism concerns. Populism concerns. Now, the debate could be fueled by populist motivations rather than substantive reasons. So this is another problem of dual citizenship. Now let's talk about the arguments supporting diaspora engagement. First is diaspora's role strengthens the bilateral relations. For example, Indian diaspora in the US, and it also facilitates investments and innovations. For example, Satya Nadella's AI initiatives. Now, next becomes the instrumental benefits. What are the instrumental benefits? Now, the diaspora serves as a bridge for cultural and economic ties without political empowerment. So, here's the question for this topic. Now, consider the following statements regarding the Indian citizenship and dual citizenship. The Indian Constitution permits dual citizenship under certain conditions. Okay. The Citizenship Act 1955 governs the acquisition and termination of Indian citizenship. The third is the Overseas Citizenship of India card grants full political rights to holders. Which of the above statements is or are correct? Answer it in the comment section. We also have a mains question related to this. The demand for dual citizenship for diasporic Indians has sparked debates about its implications for India's political and social fabric. Critically analyze the challenges and the opportunities associated with granting dual citizenship to Indians abroad. Keep practicing these answers. Let's move on to the next topic. Now, the Supreme Court rejects review petition on same-sex marriage recognition. So this is from the Indian Express, page number 1 and 2. So what are the key points we need to consider? First is review petition dismissal. The review petition dismissal. The Supreme Court dismissed the petition seeking a review of its October 2023 ruling that denied legal recognition to same-sex marriages. Now, the petitions were reviewed by 5-judge bench, including Justice B.R. Gavai, Justice Suryakant, Justice B.V. Nagaratna, Justice P.S. Narasimha, and Justice Dipankar Datta. Now, next is majority judgment. This judgment, authored by Justice S. Ravindra Bhatt, the October 2023 ruling highlighted the institutional limitations. The bench declined to amend or strike down provisions of Special Marriage Act 1954. So this becomes important. Special Marriage Act 1954. Now, it ruled that there is no unqualified right to marriage and same-sex couples cannot claim marriage as a fundamental right under the Constitution. So the matter was left to Parliament for potential legislative action. Next comes the minorities view. Here, the then Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, and Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul supported the civil unions, arguing that the right to enter into a cohabitation relationship could be traced to Part 3 of the Constitution. So Part 3 becomes important. Okay. Now, they referred judgments such as Navtej Johar, K.S. Puttaswamy, and Nalsa, emphasizing the freedom to choose a marital partner. Okay. Now, the fourth point is arguments in review petition. Arguments in review petition. What were the arguments made? Now, petitioners argued that the majority judgment contained errors and was self-contradictory. Okay, they stated that the judgment failed to address the discrimination faced by same-sex couples, violating their fundamental rights. Again, another topic. So we have 3 topics here. Now, it was contended that marriage as a social contract should be accessible to all adults capable of consenting regardless of the gender of sexual orientation. Okay, these were the arguments in the review petition. Now, what are the critique by the petitioners? Now, the ruling was described as a disregarding precedents set by previous judgments. The petitioner argued that the decision forces queer individuals to lead dishonest lives to have a family. Now, they highlighted that the judgment undermines the rights to dignity, equal protection, and fraternity. Got it? These were the key points on this review petition dismissal. Now, there is some static information we need to keep in mind. First is obviously the Special Marriage Act 1954. It provides a civil marriage framework for couples regardless of caste, religion, or nationality. And it is designed to facilitate interfaith and intercaste marriages as well. Okay. And then some landmark judgments referenced, which was referred in the dismissal. First is the Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India, 2018. It decriminalized the consensual same-sex relationship under section 377 of IPC. And next, Nalsa versus Union of India, 2014. Here it recognized the transgender persons as the third gender. Okay, it is very important. Third gender as transgenders. Matlab, third gender is considered as the recognized as third gender. Now third one, K.S. Puttaswamy case. K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India. So here it affirmed the right to privacy as a fundamental right. Now let's move on to some questions. So here, with reference to the recognition of same-sex marriage in India, consider the following statements. So the Special Marriage Act 1954 explicitly recognizes same-sex marriage. The Supreme Court has ruled that there is no fundamental right to marry under the Constitution of India. The matter of granting legal recognition to same-sex marriage has been left to the discretion of the Parliament. Answer it in the comment section. Now, there's also a question for the mains exam. The Supreme Court's ruling on same-sex marriage highlights the balance between judicial interpretation and legislative action. Now, critically examine the implications of the judgment on the rights of LGBTQ+ individuals and the role of Parliament in ensuring equality and dignity for all. So the next topic, we have India's engagement with Taliban. It is from the Indian Express, page number 10. Now, what are the key points we need to discuss? Now, first is obviously the India and Taliban engagement. India and Taliban engagement. Here, India has elevated its engagement with the Taliban, marked by Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri's meeting with Afghanistan's acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi in Dubai. Now, this signals a gradual normalization of ties despite the initial caution post Taliban's return to the power in August 2021. Okay, now there's a gradual normalization in the the bilateral ties. Okay, now next is historical ties. What historical ties we had with Taliban? Now, India's ties with Afghanistan have been strategic irrespective of regimes. Okay. Now, both countries share warm relations with no bilateral disputes and a mutual concern about Pakistan's interference. So, this is very important. Pakistan's interference. And they don't like Pakistan. We don't like Pakistan's interference as well. So, there's a common ground which we can keep in mind in improving our relationship with Afghanistan. The third is Pakistan-Afghanistan tensions. Pakistan and Afghanistan tensions. Now, Pakistan has historically used Afghanistan as a proxy against India, promoting radical Islam and supporting the Taliban. Now, however, the tensions between Kabul and Rawalpindi persists, now failing to disrupt the India-Afghanistan relationship. So, Afghanistan does not like the interference of Pakistan, so it is very hard for Pakistan to turn Afghanistan against India. So there's a small issue right there, but this can be handled. Now, the humanitarian development and cooperation. Humanitarian and developmental cooperation. Now, India has provided humanitarian aid and developmental assistance to Afghanistan, addressing the Kabul's request. So, India has been actively participating in this humanitarian cooperation, humanitarian aid and developmental assistance. So there we have a strong engagement with Taliban. Now, what are the core concerns for India? There are some concerns for India. First is obviously the human rights issues. The Taliban's oppressive domestic policies, particularly against women, including restrictions on education and freedoms. There's an issue right there. And also the abandonment of allies. Okay, now India's refusal to provide visas to Afghans who supported India over decades is a point of criticism. Now, balancing relations with the new and old allies remains crucial. Okay, now we can also have some collaborative efforts that India can partner with UAE and other moderate Arab states to encourage progressive changes in in Afghanistan. Okay, there will be some collaborative efforts that we can look into it. Let's get on to the question. With reference to India's relations with Afghanistan, consider the following statements. India and Afghanistan share a history of bilateral disputes over territorial boundaries. And the second statement, India's engagement with Afghanistan has remained consistent irrespective of the nature of the regime in Kabul. Now, India has partnered with moderate Arab states to promote political moderation in Afghanistan. Answer it in the comment section. Let's look at the main questions. India's engagement with Taliban marks a shift in its regional policy. Critically analyze the challenges and opportunities in normalizing relations with Afghanistan under the Taliban regime. Understood? So answer all the prelims questions here in the comment section. Mention like question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, and question number 4, and also write the mains answers. Keep on practicing. So this was all for today's video. If you like this new series of current affairs, do not forget to drop a like and share it, and subscribe this channel. We are also on different social media sites. Let's say Telegram, Instagram, WhatsApp. All the links are in the description. Make sure you join them for updated informations and everything else, like PDFs, and everything. Let's meet you in the next video. Till then, keep learning and stay curious.